This evening, what we're going to go through is really the 2025 Masterclass, is what myself and Marvin are calling it. And I think with this, we were thinking, okay, we've done a lot of, science-based stuff and getting into the nitty-gritty of sleep or fat loss, calorie deficits, training, all of that kind of stuff. And I think some of the most sort of valuable feedback we've had from you in terms of these sessions really is around the real stories happening, right? The real stories, the real insights, the real struggles, and also most importantly, how people have overcome them. So with this, I wanted to go through 10 principles behind transformation. And transformation, as I'm sure you are becoming familiar with, is beyond the physical, right? I think a lot of times people come into this wanting that physical change, which is absolutely something to work towards. But there are elements that creep in which we often, struggle with and overcome too. And a lot of those are the sort of the mental side of things, the mindset, the lifestyle challenges, and overcoming those. Because only when we overcome those can we see the physical change. So, just to recap on why we are here today. So, I think a lot of time we think our struggles are unique. We're the only person facing these struggles, that no one has overcome the challenges that we are facing. I know myself, I feel this about certain things as well. And we want to highlight today that success or transformations, whatever you want to call them, they aren't necessarily random. They follow patterns, they follow principles, they follow behaviors. And with each of you, you have your targets, you have your things you need to hit in order to see the changes. But we appreciate that life happens, things come up. And so, really, we're going to delve into different principles today that hopefully you can take with you. You can maybe see similarities or parallels in other people's journeys and have that as a bit of fuel, a bit of inspiration to then take into your own journey. So, as always, if there are any questions, please do shout as we sort of work through this today. And myself or Marvin will be answering questions in the chat box. And then also when we get into sort of some of the sort of the client wins and the client stories, we have some in attendance this evening. So we'll be handing over the microphone to them as well to, again, just get some real, genuine insight. Because as always, myself and Marvin can guide you and tell you what to do. But I think when you speak to someone or when you hear someone's story who has overcome the same thing as you, it can often be a lot more powerful. So that's what we want to really get out of this session. So to start with, we're going to kind of look at, or we looked really at what were the common themes between everyone we're celebrating and everyone who does well in their journey. And really, success leaves clues. And so I'll go through the first set of behaviors and I'll hand over to Marvin on the next one. But really, the biggest thing I would say is just the speed of communication. So we always say this, if you are quick to ask for help, to share your updates, to seek feedback, then we can get to the root cause of whatever problem you may be facing. We can also trial some things. We can see what works, we can see what doesn't work, and ultimately get to a place quicker so that you can see, good change coming through from that and you overcome that particular hurdle. Another thing, which often is the hardest, and I can relate to this as well, the brutal, honest reflections. So, again, those people who do the check-ins tend to be the people who come to these calls as well, I must say. But the check-ins really are there for you to take 5 to 10 minutes to really understand how your weeks have gone, the last 2 weeks, how they have gone, where you're particularly struggling, where you're absolutely crushing it, because we find it really insightful to get that sort of perspective from you. So this is a brutal skill, a really good skill to have. Just I think generally in life as well, because a lot of the time we can kid ourselves into thinking things are okay and we're good, but really having those reflections and being honest with ourselves and those around us can be really powerful. So one of the things we do as well is focus on the targets, right? Every week you get your accountability. You see how you're performing against the targets set. And as soon as we look at being more behavior focused and less outcome obsessed, that is where we see the change week to week. We always say you behave your way to success. It is the small, daily, seemingly insignificant actions that move the needle forward. Tracking, super important. We track what matters. If you measure, if you, I can't remember the saying now, you can manage what you measure, right? So having that awareness, that intentionality with your tracking, whether it's steps, sleep, protein, training, is going to be useful for us to see what we then need to tweak as we move through. So we do it from a place of knowing, we do it from a place of data. And then also, we find people who anchor themselves in their non negotiables and making sure that those are things that they have to get done no matter what or how they feel, I think is another really key aspect for people, right? Having those strong non negotiables, whether that's in the office, whether that's at work, whether that's with your kids, your partner, whoever it is, I think are things that really just keep us focused and fixated on what we need to do in order to get to where we want to go. So before we jump into the 10 principles, I'll let Marvin take the microphone here and share other common denominators between people who do exceedingly well within this.
Yeah, these are really good. The next one being understanding how progress is not linear. You go through peaks and troughs, you go through peaks and valleys, you go through speed bumps, but having that expectation and understanding that this is going to come, progress is never linear. When you think of anything else really in your life where you've made progress, career being one, when you went through university, studying, all that, it was never, very linear. You weren't getting A grades every single time. Even in your career as you're now working, everything doesn't come super easy to you. And so there are times where you have to go through those ups and downs, and it's about being steady through both of those ups and downs, riding the waves really well. Having well, the education and the implementation process of that, like showing up to these sessions, right? I think when you truly treat this journey as also part of understanding more and more, like we often find that the people that are willing to learn and want to learn and understand the why behind a lot of the things that they're doing, it makes the journey that much more enjoyable. And then you can also apply what you've learned afterwards, right? So on these calls, we then kind of have people that are applying what they're learning. Action leads to more action, where you're not feeling or waiting to feel motivated and you are actually have speed of action. So the same people that have speed of communication get the feedback that they need and then they take action immediately, right? And that action creates momentum rather than waiting for the perfect moment when everything is, there are no variables and you're not having to worry about all these other things happening. You're just, focused on that action and not waiting to be motivated. Because motivation is not always there, right? It wanes, it comes, it goes. And so if you truly rely on that only, then you're never really going to be successful, which then leads to trusting the process, long-term focus, being patient, and having like a zooming out often, having the bigger picture in mind, always truly thinking about what the ultimate goal is, but then recognizing that there's a process to get to that goal. And so you're trusting the process and you've got patience, giving yourself grace along the way, celebrating the small wins because these create momentum as well. Similar to how action creates momentum, so does celebrating those small wins, right? We can't always just be focusing on the big goal and waiting for that big win. We need to celebrate the small goals and the small tasks that we're sort of achieving along the way because you have this big goal, but then we have smaller goals going along. And so we really need to be celebrating those small wins because that's what ultimately leads us to the much bigger one. And then getting into our 10 principles, starting off with our first champion, Pete.
So I see Aziz is in the chat. He's here. Is it this Aziz or is it another Aziz? That's the question. So pipe up in the chat box. But what we want to
Yes.
say is really first principle here is true transformation happens beyond the scale. And as we know, there's an obsession or a fixation with the number staring back at us. And that can really be a tough thing to manage, right? Your weight may go up a kilo one day, you may lose 2 kilos the next day, it may go up again. Maybe it's your period and you've gone up another 2.5 kilos. It can be really, really disheartening. And so, if we use it as a good, it's Aziz here. If we use it as our kind of measure of success, then we can fall into the trap of just having our identity, having our sort of self attached to the weight looking back at us. And there are so many things that can really affect that. Things that don't mean fat gain or muscle loss or anything like that. You may just need to go for the toilet, for example. So it's really important to start separating that emotional attachment to the scale and looking at some of these other, non-scale, intangible things. And I'm looking forward to sharing some of the stories we have. But to go through a couple points here in relation to that, your body weight can't measure the changes that matter most. Either the in-body, that can't either. Confidence, energy, strength, mood, daily habits, all transform long before necessarily the weight does. Changes in body composition as well. The amount of times we've been 3 months down the line with particular clients, their weight has stayed the same, but maybe they've lost 5 kilos of body fat but gained 3 kilos of muscle. So if you're wedded to the number on the scale, that is probably the fastest way to really crash within this process. There's the mental and emotional wins as well that create those feel good memories, those lasting results. Reduced stress, better sleep, stable routines, improved self-belief, and these are the things that allow us to then push ourselves beyond what is comfortable and really, I guess, double down on the quality of life aspect as well. And that ultimately is the real outcome in all of this. We want to feel happier, stronger, confident, more capable, and be feeling like we can really tackle whatever comes our way. Now, introducing Aziz. So I think one thing that probably has stood out a lot when when I've had consultations before is Aziz, and I'll kind of get you to chime in a moment. Uh, he would come home. He works in the sort of healthcare side of things as a nurse, sort of head nurse now, and he would come home and just have two burgers, sat in his bed after a long shift at work. And he's gone from that, where he's just kind of, I think, surviving and getting through the intense work schedule, to now fitness being a fundamental part of his life. He's traveling to events, working out on holiday, training before shifts, inspiring the fitness community in the workplace to double down and go for, lunchtime steps or join up the events happening in Riyadh. And over a journey of 17 months, actually, he's been down 10 kilos. But I think the joy and the quality that has come from his experience is so much bigger than that. So, Aziz, over to you. Give us a give us a sort of a quick overview as where you were versus what you're doing now.
Hi, good evening, Pete. Good evening, Marv. Good evening, team. Oh my goodness, what a journey, Peter. It's been a crazy journey. Excuse me, I've been driving. I'm actually driving to the gym. I'm rushing even to the gym. Uh, so like it's been a hard journey. I was really stuck in a dark place before I've had that first consultation with you. I felt kind of stuck, didn't know what to do. I needed help. I needed more clarity. I definitely needed to sort of forced to like I need to get healthier than this when it comes to my like weight, the health issues I had, the work, the sleep, the food I eat. So I was struggling at the beginning. And when I started with you in the program, like you made everything easy and like you guys been so graceful with me and very patient. I was like trying always to perfect things and I will like go things with intensity. But like when I started with you guys, the key that I found that worked with me is like having that mind shift of things and finding my pace and taking my own time with my progress and just building up brick by brick and focus on the 1%, that not the 99%, which is all these concepts I've learned from the program. And like I just started enjoying more like being active and being like building a community, having friends that we do activities together instead of doing like, going out and having dinners or fast food and all these things. So now, like, I have like a pretty set routine, which is I'm actually enjoying it. It actually gave me sort of the ability to be a ghost client now, in a sense, at the end, because I built like such a strong foundation with you guys. and things is being clear for me. My schedule is clear for me. I'm getting healthier. I quit vaping. Like there's so many things that changed so positively. Yes, I'm not where I want to be, uh, physical appearance wise, but like I know that I'm doing every action that I need to do in order to get me there. And I'm just pacing myself and taking grace on myself and just enjoying the journey as I go along.
And
That's it.
I was gonna ask, like you obviously have like a strong group around you, right? Because you were
Yeah,
saying before in Riyadh, it's all work, it's maybe cafes and restaurants at the weekend, but now
yeah,
you're, I don't know, running a 5K in the morning in Wadi Hanifa, for example, on a Friday. How has that
yeah.
been in terms of shifting groups of friends or galvanizing that support around you?
Well, we adapted the concept of like having wellness in the department. So like it was like more of work activities that we do, and like we dedicated it instead of like having dinner nights out or retreats and whatnot. We just gathered people who are like fitness freaks in a sense, or like people who enjoy running or enjoy like company of people, and we just relate it into like having like a walk or biking and. Actually, a lot of group of people now, more people joined in. The group start like with 10 people, and now I think about 35 people joined in, and
Oh, damn,
everybody
amazing.
schedule their own runs. And we have fixed days like cycling Wednesdays and running Fridays. We have a lot of people who signed up for Riyadh Marathon, and we are waiting for the Arabian Warrior to do the group run. It's been amazing. It's like the thing is like the best thing about it is like finding the people who have the same interests, same passion, and you just stick to them. Even sometimes, like to be honest, to be fair with you, because it's the end of the year and everything getting busy, you get bored in a sense, or you focus on a different thing. But like you find those people who ground you. Like today, like I'm very busy and stuff. For example, like for now. But like my friend, he just finished work. He said, "No, let's go to the gym. Like no need for you to check." I was gonna postpone my session to tomorrow because I got other things to do. And you could have those days, but it's nice to have those people close by you that like
Of
actually like
course.
you help them out when they need it and they help you out when you need it.
Amazing. And also, given the fact that you work in a hospital as well, I think it's, something that you, I guess, need to live and breathe health in a way so you can, be examples for your patients too. So, credit to you and your team, Aziz, and thank you ever so much for sharing. Now we'll come
Thank
on
you, Pete.
to appreciate it, mate. Enjoy the gym and be careful driving. Introducing May. So I don't think she's on the call today, but we started working together about 4 months ago, and she came with like severe burnout from just a summer of relentless work in Dubai, basically. I think she had been there for about 6 or 7 years and got to the point where things were a real struggle. She's an overachiever. She'd always do more, but she struggled with anxiety and sort of really getting into a bit of a dark place. And so, she reached out and started with the basics, right? We always say baby steps. Baby steps are needed. And she felt, okay, I'll start with the home gym, the apartment gym that was available. And with time, with consistency, and of course, sort of various different road bumps along the way, she's ultimately found a gym that she likes the look of and is now, falling around, sort of falling in love with her training, throwing barbells around and absolutely crushing that side of things. And I think she got to the point where, she was always an outdoor person, wanted more out of life. And actually, what was it, Marvin? Last month, I think she was like, all right, I need a challenge. I feel strong. I feel good. I've overcome the sort of dark place I was in, and she'll now be summiting Mount Kenya in December, late December. So I think it's an incredibly powerful thing when you start putting things in place that may seem small. 3 training sessions a week, starting to eat more protein, starting to believe in yourself a little bit more, and what that can ladder up to in terms of life milestones, achievements, really stepping out of the comfort zone. And credit to her because it's at a time when she's going to be moving country. She decided to move away from Dubai to sort of better take care of herself. There's going to be the transition during the move, which also lines up with Ramadan, and a shift to performance focus in the training side of things. So with her, it's a case of, consistency, knowing there's going to be these hurdles coming through, but the value that she gets from doing these sorts of things and how it makes her feel is absolutely worth prioritizing herself over the relentless time that she had within the workplace, really. So, Marvin, do you want to add anything on May?
Yeah, the Ramadan thing is really interesting because I think I had a call with her 2 weeks ago, and she was mentioning something similar, right? Where she had said when she initially joined, she was kind of worried about, like, excited about everything and the journey and everything, but kind of worried about what happens around Ramadan because that's typically a time where she falls off. And now she's actually kind of excited because it's like, oh man, I've been so consistent for the last 4 months, and then by the time it's Ramadan, it'll be 6-ish months. And so she would have built a good amount of habits, a decent amount of habits that won't derail her this time around and really appreciates having the support. So, yeah, super excited for her in terms of what this journey is going to bring and hearing how she summits Mount Kenya with absolute ease.
For sure. I have the confidence as well. Now, up next, we've got consistency beats intensity every single time. We say, these small, seemingly insignificant actions repeated over time, they compound. It's the ordinary days done well that really drive extraordinary results. And consistency builds that intensity. You ultimately want to be the person that works out. You want to be the person who never misses a session. You want to be the person who, has the body that you want. You want to feel like this is who you are now. You do your check-ins, you do your workouts, you make good decisions when, the previous you may not have. And consistency, as we come actually on the principle 10 as well, consistency really carries you through life's ups and downs, right? Anyone can be motivated on a good day. Consistency is what keeps you moving through and just getting shit done on the tough ones. And so we have Arwa here. I don't think she's on the call. And Arwa is a sort of resident plastic surgeon in Jeddah. And so she has quite an intense schedule. And for her, she went through, before joining us, a pretty big fat loss phase, right? She lost 19 kilos over 3 years by herself, but really struggled to gain any muscle. She would be obsessed with the body composition measures. She would do an in-body every single week. Whenever she saw her body fat creep up, she would feel like, oh my God, I need to change everything. So she was always torn between, after, losing a great deal of fat, wanting to build muscle and get strong, but she was terrified of gaining that fat back. There had been a lot of misinformation from trainers, and she just found she was spinning her wheels, trying to do both things, but not doing anything, right? So fast forward 6 months, she has been 80, 90% consistent. I think her training has been incredible based on the fact that she obviously works in a hospital, a crazy schedule, messy days, even when tired. She gets shit done. And when it comes to why, because we asked why she feels consistency or what has made her be consistent rather, it is being flexible, realistic, and achievable. And previous experiences with trainers had been more, bodybuilder specific, right? Chicken and rice, have to do your cardio, fasted cardio, you have to do this, you have to do that. And when you are someone who has a family, has a job, and all that kind of stuff, that becomes very difficult. And so for us, as no doubt you're all aware now, this is very much a lifestyle focused program where we want you to improve in terms of body composition, strength, muscle mass. We want you to reach your goals, but we also want you to enjoy the journey along the way. Flexibility, able to do things that maybe you kind of feel trouble doing. And I think with our sort of specifically here, since starting and focusing on building muscle, she has had her annual blood work done and it's the best it's ever been, which is amazing. She has also sort of found improvements hugely in terms of the quality of sort of being able to do things. So I know she went here to Asir and Abha and was one of the few people who made it to the top, and she had people complimenting her strength, and she can really see and appreciate the difference in what consistency has done for her versus, say, the last 3 months. So I think the message here as well is those things that you want to do, but are putting off because you feel like you're not capable or you feel like you would struggle. I think those are things that you should really double down and just give it a try. Because ultimately, like you're here to improve, you're here to get stronger and fitter and healthier. And these sorts of things, whether it is a hike on the Corniche, whether it is a 5K, whether it is going to a new Pilates class or whatever it is, you should absolutely do them because you may just be surprised at how far you have come. Anything else here, Marvin, on this one?
Yeah, there was I was trying to think of like something that happened with Ottawa, and I remember when I asked her once if there was something that surprised her about this journey thus far. And she said she kind of took a second, thought about it a little bit, and then she's like, "Oh yeah, there was a day I was in the OR, 8 hour operation or 8 hour surgery, and afterwards realized that she hadn't felt any sort of fatigue anywhere, arms, legs, not back, nothing." And she's just like, "Oh wow, this is working." So I think it's just really interesting how again celebrating those small wins is super important because you can easily kind of forget or not think about it if you're not super aware or if you're not conscious about all the things that you're doing. And yeah, it's incredible to hear how she's all areas of her life have been impacted. And I'm sure she's also impacting her boys. She's got a 11 and 10-year-old, I believe. And so, yeah, it's been incredible to see.
Dragging them out to the Corniche to run on a Friday morning, I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we also have Abdulaziz here. So we'll go through this quickly as I think the pictures speak 1,000 words. But this is a journey of 9 months, down 14 kilos. He had the life of an MBA student. And I swear, myself and Marvin would look on at the food journal and it would literally be Snickers and Indomie. That was it. It was like the life of a student. But I mean, and to be honest, at the time, it was a case of, okay, do we have confidence that this guy is going to step up and do what needs to be done? And to be honest, absolutely. It took a little bit of time, but he plowed on. Consistency was incredible, whether he was in the US, Riyadh, London, always planning ahead of time where he's going to work out, what is he going to do, where can he eat if he's going to Mecca and whatever else it is. So again, with this one, the physical changes come from the tedious day after day kind of stuff that you need to do to see the changes within your body. Your body is a reflection of what you put in your mouth, what you do on a daily basis. And I think, again, it comes down to behaving your way to success. Now, we have the realities of new levels and new devils. Number three. Marvin, do you want to touch through this one?
Yes, of course. So, as we've sort of spoken about before, how as you continue on this journey, there are phases, things are constantly happening. You start somewhere, but that's not exactly where you finish, right? Or maybe it doesn't even finish and it's an ongoing journey. And so as you go through different challenges, you have breakthroughs, and these breakthroughs bring new challenges. The progress that you make doesn't necessarily remove obstacles, it actually just upgrades them. So you reach a new level of fitness or discipline, but this comes with new demands because now, you are sort of have a better understanding of what this journey takes. And you also start to adopt a better sort of approach and mindset towards this new lifestyle. The growth that you continue to get over time exposes weakness that you didn't see before, right? Like you don't know what you don't know, as people often say. And so as you level up, all these blind spots and habits that you used to do back in the day, what you used to think and the limiting beliefs you previously had, they start to become clear. And once you see this and it's in front of you, you actually know what to improve on because it's there versus before you absolutely had no idea, right? You didn't know what you didn't know. And so now you know what you didn't know. You transition over into mastery, where it now requires continuous adaptation. You're continually looking to change and improve, right? New standards start to become something that you espouse something that you become to, or you start to become to espouse new behaviors, and you have a stronger identity, because you know what got you there is not necessarily what will continue or get you to where you want to get to, but you need to understand that these challenges will keep coming and you're ready to embrace them. And so we have Mia,
So Mia
Mia.
shared her success story the other week, actually, in detail.
Yes.
And if you want the in-depth version of that, definitely worth looking back at the resources and checking that out. But I think with this one, we got to a point, Marvin, where there was a bit of a plateau in terms of weight loss. It had been a journey of 10, 11 months of fat loss, right? And as you would know from our previous resources, going through such a lengthy fat loss phase is very draining to the body. And so we got to the point where Mia was starting to feel really fatigued and tired, and training was suffering. And Marvin sort of introduced the reverse diet, and perhaps sort of explain a little bit on that, Marvin.
Yeah, so it was actually, and I'll be very honest and frank here, guys. I was trying to figure out a way to word this so that it doesn't become something that Mia might not be willing to embrace, right? Not because it's challenging. It's a completely different transition. It's not a new phase. It's a transition into a new part of the journey. And so trying to word what happens here was really difficult. And lo and behold, it did work. And so a reverse diet is essentially where when you've plateaued, you've been doing fat loss, you've been in a calorie deficit for an extended period of time. And so now you've been depleted in terms of your calories, energy starting to get depleted, you're starting to plateau. And so where do you go from there, right? The question is, do you cut your calories? Do you increase your activity? Probably not, because the more and more you do that, then the more and more you're tapping into potentially being unhealthy. And so we need to reverse out of this calorie deficit and start to gradually increase back, giving you a little bit more energy, more strength, a new lease on life. You love your training again, and we focus on building muscle. And this is what Mia has embraced so well. Mia, how was the last, what's it been, 6 weeks, right? She's in here. She is.
Yeah, I
How
think Mia, like if you talk
Yeah.
about just initially, the maybe the daunting nature of what Marvin was suggesting versus now you've been in it for a little bit of time, you can give a bit more insight into how that's been for you.
Yeah, where you were versus where you are now.
Um, you mean at the start of my journey or before reverse diet?
Before the
Before
reverse
the
diet.
reverse diet.
Oh, okay. Before reverse dieting, I was struggling with my performance, because I was staying very long in the fat loss journey. So my performance dropped and my appetite also dropped. I didn't know what was the issue actually until Marvin and Peter introduced me to this reverse dieting. Now I feel amazing. I feel a little bit challenged. And this phase is really testing my power. Whenever I go to the gym and seeing the bar, I feel very weak. But it doesn't have to be like negative thing. I see it like something challenge me to push me more to the next level, because next level require a lot of hard work and require you a lot of prioritizing things and arranging your schedule around this phase. And in regard to foods, it's very hard to eat the amount of food, especially for me. Sometimes I don't feel the energy to eat 2000 calorie, 1800 calorie. But what I do actually is working with myself in a bit strategic level. Like I prepare my meal, I ensure there is fruit in my fridge, and also I prioritize protein in each meal. So this helped me a lot to close my protein intake. So I can feel the mind shift here is very massive, and that's it.
Amazing. And Mia, I remember maybe you might not have said this to us, but you were a bit apprehensive because you were worried maybe the scale would go up. And tell us, where did you start in terms of your calories
Yeah.
versus where you are now? and what the scale is saying?
Yeah, it's totally different. Now I've been in this phase for almost 2 months, and the scale is never move an inch. But for someone who used to be obsessed with the scale, I feel now totally different because I don't care about the scale anymore. I only want to show up at the gym, eating healthy, and the rest will come after. Yani, the result will come later. So my main priority now is to train heavy, eat healthy. So that's it. I don't care about the scale.
I think it's amazing because a lot of the time people, you hear the stuff on, yes, you can eat more and your weight won't go up and so on. But
Mm.
to see it in practice over a 2 month period is pretty amazing. And again, it just goes to show that with each part of this journey that you get into, you uncover new things about yourself, uncover new learnings that come with this new territory that you're in, right? And for you, obviously
Yeah.
getting into your PT qualification and doing that side of things, this is all really important stuff for you to understand and go through so that you can appreciate in the future if you're working with clients or working with people what they're thinking and what they're going through, and you can talk about it from a place of knowing rather than the sort of general sort of point of everyone needs to be in a fat loss phase at all times. There's a time and a place for everything. And if you're thinking long term in this journey, you need to go through different phases. You need to come against different challenges and as you progress through. So thank you ever so much for sharing, Mia. Really appreciate it. And if you want to hear more about Mia's story, you can always look at the success story or Mia's success story in the resources. So we have now sustainable change beats quick fixes always. And so quick fixes, as you're no doubt aware, create short-term results, maybe fast short-term results, but sustainable habits create lifelong ones. So those diets, people say, oh, I was going no carb and I lost 10 kilos in a month, something like that, something crazy. That worked really well for me. What myself and Marvin always then say is, well, did it work? Because sort of where are you at now in relation to that? How did you manage to keep the weight off? And then it comes down to the fact that, oh, it was a totally unsustainable way to eat and to live. Therefore, as soon as I came off of it, everything went back to how it was. So real transformation lasts because it's built on behavior and not intensity or not quick fixes. We want that slow, steady progress because that is the thing that's going to prevent the rebound cycle, the yo-yo. So when you don't rush, you don't crash. So sustainable change keeps you moving forward gradually, little by little, instead of, big jumps forward and then big jumps back. Sustainable habits, again, if we're looking at this lifestyle approach, they complement your real life, your schedule. So your routines of work, of family, of travel, of stress, we want something that complements that. That doesn't add something else to overwhelm that. Because as soon as that happens and as soon as there is that overwhelm, you kind of fall off. Now, I'll let you speak through Asil, Marvin, but I'll just kind of intro where she started. After two medical procedures, she struggled hugely with appetite. She lost a load of weight. She lost a load of muscle. She was experiencing dizziness, lightheadedness due to all of these different nutritional deficiencies. And really came from a place of fitness, of gym, of diet, meaning fat loss, weight loss, restriction. And that was the mindset. It was this very negative mindset attached to fitness. And so our approach here was shifting scarcity and restriction to a place of abundance. And we wanted to build a strong and healthy body fueled by quality nutrition. So I know she's just completed 6 training blocks. She's progressing her exercise complexity. I mean, Marvin, correct me if I'm wrong. I think she's absolutely loving the process, judging from all the selfies and training videos and pictures she's sending us.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys are reading this, but yeah, she is. I mean, if you were to get into our inbox now with a seal, you would see like 4 loads of pictures of her getting a gym session in at 7 a.m. after arriving in Antigua, with her husband, taking him on for a walk as well. So she's truly embraced what it truly means to be incredibly consistent. And if you've been, in the forum as well, kind of seeing some of the posts that we've been putting up, you'll notice that I shared something about a SEAL where she's got this crazy commute every single day, and yet she's still being able to prioritize her health and her fitness, her strength training, right? And it's incredible to see what it looks like when you truly prioritize your health and your fitness. I think she even kind of made me question myself a couple of times. I'm like, man, I'm trying to think of all the excuses that I typically make for myself, and definitely drew some inspiration from a SEAL. So yeah, just it's incredible to watch where she's come from and where she is at the moment.
Yeah, I didn't want to call you out, Marvin, but it looks like you've stopped walking.
Exactly. I should
You've
get
hit,
back
you've
on
hit your
it.
steps for the day, yes?
A SEAL wouldn't be happy.
So being selfless is the most selfless thing you can do. So you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So when you prioritize your health, your energy, your routine, you really show up as the best version of you for everyone else around you. You're not drained, you're not tired, you're not fatigued, you're not resentful because you haven't been able to do these things for yourself. So self-care improves how you lead, support, and connect. You become stronger, calmer, healthier, more confident. You become a better partner, parent, friend, professional, colleague. And I think taking care of yourself really sets the standards for others. I think we're blown away by the amount of times that people share the impact of their journey that has had on their kids, on their parents, on their partner. And you can really be the one that inspires or models the behavior for people around you. And much like Aziz was saying in the hospital, you can set a standard for those people around you, and they will be inspired by you doing your thing. And so I think we have Janine in the chat. I'm not sure if she is available to chat, maybe. She's still here? Let me check. But Janine, yes, she is. Janine, we kicked off like 29 months ago, which is absolutely crazy. I remember when your daughter put us onto Zoom for the first time together, and I don't think you really knew what you were getting in for, to be honest. But judging from what you've been saying over this period, you would always sacrifice yourself. You'd sacrifice your personal needs for the needs of others. And I think this is something that myself and Marvin can't necessarily understand is, and you kind of mentioned being a sort of a mother and a wife in the generation that you were in. I think you're sort of late 50s now, and you are particularly, of the sort of Arab background as well. Myself and Marvin can't relate, but you mentioned you usually forget about yourselves. Women, mothers usually forget about themselves when they get married, and they take care of everyone else, and they raise everyone else, do everything for everyone else, and you come to the bottom of the list. And so, honestly, seeing your journey here, going from someone who would have aches and pains in their neck, pains in their back, pains in their body, to starting to train at home, sort of body weight stuff, to now working out pretty much 4 or 5 times a week, heading to the gym, ensuring, I mean, you're the queen of consistency here as well. Ensuring that you do these things for yourself because you know that you show up better for everyone else when you are your best self. And just going back to the point that we had before in the previous slide, just around modeling behaviors, you've put here, for the first time in your life, your husband joined you to go to the gym. And, my husband told me that he slept early last night at 11 p.m. Not sure that counts as early for Marvin and myself, but when you say his family are famous for spending the whole night up and just sleep for 2 hours, like you're saying, you're seeing history happen in front of your eyes and you can't believe it. So the fact that you are, being selfish a little bit in terms of prioritizing what you're doing and what you need and what makes you happy has that spillover effect to others. So Janine, would you like to share anything on this? Are you okay to talk? Maybe is she here?
Yeah, she
Uh,
is. She made a funny comment when you mentioned her age. She says she's in her second 30s.
Ah, okay. Second 30s. That's the second 30s is the new first 30s, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, but
Yeah.
I think, one of the biggest things for Janine is, okay, she's shy to talk. We probably bigged her up too much. But yeah, one of the biggest things I think would be when she travels between Cairo and Jeddah, she would literally take 1 to 2 weeks to recover, to just like, feel like she can do something. And now, I swear, she trains the very next day. So that strength, no matter how, old you are, I mean, Janine, you're not old at all, just allows you to again come back to that quality of life and to be able to move around and keep up with things and not become overly tired from the things that are going on. Now, Marvin, I'll let you sort of take over here on this one and then go into and share with Ajwad as well.
Yes, this is a really good one. Really interesting about how, how when your life evolves, your goals must evolve with it. And I'm sure you can tell by the picture what is coming up here. Um, so different seasons require different priorities, right? When you have new jobs, relationships, stress levels, all these responsibilities that come and, and go and change, your goals should also change to kind of match that and marry that and reflect that. What mattered before might not always matter now, right? Like what mattered last year won't always matter now because of that change, because of those differences, right? Your identity, your values, your lifestyle kind of shift and change as all these things are changing as well. But you don't want that to hold you back. And so you need to be willing to change and move with these changes that are happening. Evolving goals prevent burnout and frustration, right? So that you're not just staying in the same place. Oftentimes, people are in one place and they're doing these things, and these are the habits that it takes to get to their goals. And then the season changes and they expect the same things to work, but you're in a completely different season. And so you end up feeling behind, you keep having to adjust things rather than early on, if you kind of accept that you're in a different season, therefore priorities need to shift and the way you do your habits needs to shift is really interesting. So we have Ajwad here, who is incredibly well, she's a new mom, right? And she's going to be a new mom really soon. And it's really interesting how when she first started, she struggled with, body image and felt like no matter what she did, she couldn't lose body fat, right? She was big into CrossFit, did the running, did everything. And so just thinking that all that stuff that she was doing and all the work that she was doing wasn't feeling like she was doing all these things and yet wasn't getting the results that she wanted. And also wanted to prepare for pregnancy. So she wanted to be in the best possible health that she could be in, not only for herself, but also for the baby and for a good delivery and good postpartum and all those things. Super intense work schedule. I even remember the one time where she would say she would be taking steps around the hotel room bed after a work trip, just because she hadn't been able to move at all while she was on a work trip. So just goes to show the kind of person that she is and what she was willing to do. And so because now she's pregnant and she's carrying this beautiful bundle of joy in her belly, the shift has changed. The mindset has changed. We're no longer trying to, focus on body image and all these things. The goal is now purely on being as strong as she possibly can and as healthy as she possibly can for herself and the baby, as I said. So she's in here, right? Ajwad, you're in here. How is life as a pregnant lady that is killing the training? I remember just watching a couple of your videos just the other day. Enjoying it? Enjoying the training?
Hey, Marvin and Pete. Hi, everyone. So yeah, life with pregnancy. That's a new one for me. Actually, I've been okay since I finished the first trimester, obviously. So I'm enjoying it again because everything kind of sucks with in the first trimester. But I'm super proud of myself that I kept showing up to the gym even when I felt like I really don't want to go. But I kept showing up. I've been consistent of going to the gym and training, working out, trying to get enough sleep, trying to get enough food. Obviously, with the pregnancy craving, so that's kind of got out of control. But yeah, now that I'm in the second trimester, I feel much better. I'm enjoying my workouts. I feel stronger, you know? Like maybe I'm not hitting the same weights as pre-pregnancy, but I feel stronger because I'm doing this while pregnant, so that's huge for me.
Ah,
Especially in our culture, it's not very common that pregnant ladies train. It's kind of the opposite. People will always tell you, even like healthcare professionals, sometimes will tell you, now you're pregnant, no, you can't train, or you just need to do some light work, like walking or cardio. Yeah, you shouldn't strength train, or you shouldn't lift heavy and all that, all sort of things. So now that I'm doing this while pregnant, I feel like super proud. And I
Amazing.
feel also safe because I'm training with you guys, and you have experience with training pregnant ladies, so it makes me feel super safe.
amazing. Yeah, I was going to ask about that, like especially the mindset, right? Where you're in a culture and in a world where maybe you're being told don't do that, and yet you are still going ahead and doing it.
Yeah.
How has that made you feel? Like, have you had some kind of challenges mentally sometimes where you kind of want to listen to what you're being told, but also kind of want to carry on going because you feel great?
Yeah, actually, I'm ignoring all of that. Like, I'm blocking it out.
Okay.
You know, in our society, you hear all sort of medical advices from people that know nothing about it. So yeah, I like I'm used to ignore all of that. So yeah.
And
Wow,
just
wow.
quickly, like amazing for sharing all of that, Ajwa. Thank you so much. How was it going from like, okay, I'm focusing on losing fat, I'm doing well, all things are good, to then having to realize that great, congratulations, like I'm pregnant, amazing. But how then did you transition in terms of mindset to okay, now I probably shouldn't be in a calorie deficit and I shouldn't be focusing on losing weight to the kind of the point where we're at now. Was that tough? Was that an easy
Yeah.
thing to accept?
Yeah, of course. It was hard at the first, because I was very happy with my progress. I was losing fat, which I was aiming for, and I was really happy with the results. However, deep down, I know like this would change at some point because I was planning for pregnancy. So when I got the news, I knew, oh, okay, so now everything will change and the scale would go up instead of down. It was a little hard, but I know it's for the best. Uh, Getting pregnant it's something we were planning for from the beginning of the year, so we were happy, and it's just it took some time, but eventually I come at peace with it.
Amazing. And full credit to you for sort of, steering away from what the doctors are saying and going for actually what feels good for you. Because,
Yeah.
if you are training up until the point where obviously you give birth, I remember speaking to my brother and his wife has just done the same. It is so much easier to get back into your flow and your routine and rebuild that strength afterwards. And obviously this is just coming from a man, but so I hear, so I hear.
Well, and the
But
mental
no,
aspect, right? Yeah. Just like how important it is for you mentally to be able to do something that is good for you, that is good for your body, and not just yeah, thinking that you shouldn't be active,
yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I think as well there's an acceptance here. Correct me if I'm wrong, where it's just like, well, even back home, sort of, where you're now eating for two, and it's all about, eat as much as you can, and there's this kind of tremendous weight gain, lack of movement that just, ends you up after delivery in a really sort of tough place to come back from. So I think, with all things, if you are able to do what you can, then it's much easier to sort of weather these things as and when the time comes.
Yeah, yeah, of course. So this concept of eating for two is also very common here.
Mm,
And okay, I have to say something that in pregnancy that okay, so I learned that in pregnancy you cannot really control how much you eat. It's crazy.
Of course.
Yeah, but at least I'm doing everything else. So I'm moving, I'm going to the gym, I'm trying to get enough sleep, hydration. So it's kind of balances out, you know.
mm, mm, mm.
Yeah, but in terms of control, how much I eat, it's kind of difficult. But at the same time, I'm not eating for two. That's
Yes.
something like
Well,
it. Yeah.
and also there's some positive benefit to you sort of having a surplus, right, in terms of what's going on in your body. But also if you're training, then you get to refuel and rebuild whatever is happening there. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, Ajwat. Really, really
Yes,
appreciate you
thanks for
sharing
sharing.
your journey.
Thank you.
And it's funny,
Thank you
we
for
come
sharing my
into
story.
no, no, thank you. So we come into the next point. True growth comes from overcoming fear, doubt, and limiting self-beliefs. And so with this, fear and doubt are signals to grow, not reasons to stop. And I think I'm just actually going to dive into Manira's story because it kind of comes quite nicely from Ajwad's, where Manira had a back issue with the lower spine, and doctors again said you can't lift weights, only light movement, only light swimming, and I think Manira's story is one which kind of gives so much sort of promotes so much determination, commitment, and discipline to see where she started to where she is now. And understandably, if you're in a position where a doctor tells you, okay, you can't do this and you can't do that, then you're likely going to listen to them, right? Because they're the ones who are experts. They're the ones who are in the know. And my issue with this, we see it a lot. And ultimately, if you stop doing things because you think you are, or you have a problem and you think you could make it worse, the only thing that is going to happen is ultimately you get weaker. You get weaker, you lose muscle mass, which in the long run is going to do terrible things, right? Your body's going to deteriorate much faster and so on. And so Manira started and she was literally just doing what she could, right? She was doing a little bit of water aerobics at home, quite consistently, sort of every day, but was just water aerobics. And so what then we kind of moved to was these body weight home workouts. And for sure, there was that sort of feeling in her head, the fear of, okay, maybe this hurts. There was the limiting self-beliefs of being told that she couldn't. And we got her to see a physio, right? Because physios for these sorts of things are the best people you can see. Yes, there's a time and a place for doctors, but physios are always going to help you get back to movement and to rebuild some strength. So, as part of starting a bodyweight plan at home and seeing a physio, after that, I saw randomly that she sort of bought a ticket to one of the boot camps that I held. And so I was quite surprised, I must say. And in the midst of all the madness going on in that boot camp, we had her on a deadlift, a kettlebell deadlift, and she was literally smashing it. She was doing so, so, so well. I'm not sure if she's in the chat, is she? Is that Manira? Is this?
I
I'm
was
not sure
gonna
what.
ask if that's Monera.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the username is. But yes, so she came to one of the boot camps, absolutely smashing it. And I think at that point, she realized that, oh, I can actually do this. I'm actually stronger than I think. And there was no pain, even though I've been told that I cannot do these things. And so, fast forward a little bit to her purchasing dumbbells for home. She's now smashing the home workouts with those dumbbells. She signed up to a PT in a gym to get a few extra sessions in to check on some form, etc. And now she's also scouting out gyms when she travels to Germany. So, this is honestly such an incredible story, taking someone from sort of a diet of popcorn. Literally, that was the food journal. It was popcorn, popcorn, popcorn. She was a night owl. She's changed that totally around. She says no to friends. She's an early bird, and she continually pushes these boundaries and has trust in the process, given all of the other things that are going on in her life at the moment. So I'm just checking. Manira, is that you in the chat? Because if so, we'd love to pick
I
your brain
wonder.
on something.
I
It is?
wonder.
Okay, great. So, Manira, would you mind sharing kind of now you see this, right? The transition or the change that you've had from an activity and an exercise point of view. Like, how are you feeling around it? Is she muted? Great. Manira, are you being shy as well?
I think she's being shy.
I think she's being shy.
I
Shy
remember
and
as well.
modest, I
I
think.
remember as well when I spoke to
She
Manira,
is. Okay.
she said, maybe let me ask this, Manira. Remember when you said you were lazy? I don't think you're lazy. This doesn't look like a lazy person. You know, the amount of efforts and determination that you've had and the consistency that we've seen over what's it been like 14, 15 weeks, if not longer. So yeah, I think you've definitely broken the mold and wouldn't fit the category of being lazy. It's been awesome seeing this shift and you lifting so heavy.
For sure, and just is testament to the fact that, just because one person tells you something, you can't do something, it doesn't mean that that is the narrative that rules your life. So we have next up, we'll rattle through these quickly because I appreciate the time is ticking on. Talking of time, the perfect time does not exist. A lot of time we have so much shit going on in our lives. It feels like, a tidal wave is about to hit us. We sometimes wait for these ideal conditions, but waiting for these conditions, waiting for the perfect time ultimately just keeps us stuck. Life will always be busy, messy, and unpredictable. Action in some kind of way always begets more action. It builds that initial momentum. So you figure things out by doing and overcoming challenges as they come rather than just waiting for the right moment. And so progress is built from overcoming such struggles, such times when life just happens. Now we've got Mujtaba, and he is a critical care physician. In terms of excuses, potential excuses, he has some of the best, right? He's a critical care physician, which means he has patients who are, basically in intensive care, right? Anything can go wrong at any time. And so he has to be on hand, whether it's night or day. He's a father of three. Now he's a father of four. There's a lack of sleep from being on calls and available with work, high stress, poor time. However, Mujtaba, as he sort of mentioned here, I'm not sure if he's on the call. I don't. He said he would try and join it, but I think he's probably probably doing something more important in critical care than, than joining this call. So he had that same thought: is like now is busy, and then he came to the realization that there will never be a good time. And as his family was growing, he used it as fuel to take care of himself, to be healthy, to take care of them. And honestly, his journey has been incredible just because he has time and time and time again overcome things that ordinarily people would succumb to. Being stressed, not having time, but he would always do stuff to get it done. And I think, I saw a message from him this evening, actually. He just got his blood work back and he is officially out of the pre-diabetic range, which, we talk about the aesthetic goals, the body fat loss, the muscle building, but it's these sorts of things, the things that are happening internally that can cause huge issues down the line. So I wanted to celebrate him being out of the pre-diabetic range on the call, but congrats to him. Anything to share here on Mujtaba, Marvin?
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to maybe not the critical care physician part, but
Marvin, you have
definitely.
one child.
Yeah, but just the lack of sleep part. I mean, sleeping 2 hours, 3 hours a night is not nice. And so he's definitely one person that's been really interesting to see and watch go through this journey and hearing how some nights have been on an air mattress just to get some extra sleep. You know, he's mentioned that a couple times. Remember that, Pete? Uh,
Mm.
so yeah, just really interesting. And I love what he said about how, setting an example for his kids, right? Because you can easily make excuses and all these things, but then how do you, if you're taking ownership and responsibility for your health and then for your family and leading your family, you want to set a great example. And it's hard to, make excuses and then tell your family those excuses. So yeah, it's really good to see what he's inspired by and what keeps him going.
Yeah, and I think if you commit to something, then don't half-ass it. Go all in, whatever that looks like for you. And we come into this, which is again is a nice segue from Mujtaba. And progress stalls when expectations surpass reality. So it's always this idea around expectations versus reality, and the discrepancy between the two can lead to a fair bit of disappointment, demotivation. And if you have these unrealistic expectations and they're not met, then nothing feels good enough. It leads to frustration and then ultimately less action. And therefore, the consistency disappears. Therefore, you don't see the results you once were, even if they weren't as you were expecting. And it becomes this vicious cycle. So I want to introduce Hussein. And it's funny, he started at the perfect time. His family were away. He had more time. He could be dedicated to the routine. He also expected within 6 months to drop 20 kilos of fat. He, over the first 6 weeks, whilst his family were away, progress accelerated, but then it slowed down. He thought he would be doing better. He was on track, Marvin. I mean, he was killing it in terms of results, but his expectations were so high that even amazing results seemed like they weren't good enough. Um, he got demotivated. He got frustrated. He came to the end of his 90 days, actually, and he was at a fork in the road. We had a very honest conversation, and I really appreciate him doing this and sort of being upfront. And the sort of the fork in the road was to stop, to stop on the sort of progress he had been making, or to accept that he had been slacking a little bit because he had been demotivated and frustrated, and to double down his efforts. Thankfully, he decided to double down his efforts. And I think, for him personally, and this is a lot of the stuff which, is beyond, training and nutrition and all this kind of stuff. It's the mental side of things. Hussein has a sort of, not an issue, but let's call it a thing around expectations across all areas of his life. And so being aware of this and being able to work through this with him allows us to really just sort of help him actually get perspective on some of these things. So, for example, recently, this week, he had shared his blood test results, and he came back saying, "Not good news, guys. The blood test results came back, they're not looking good." However, he had the blood tests done a year ago, and the results, even though they're still out of range, were tremendously better. And so we're so quick to judge ourselves sometimes. But I think with a bit more data, with a bit of perspective, and understanding that anything worth having in life comes after a great deal of effort and sort of struggle, it's absolutely worth pushing on to achieve such things. And also, I think his biggest motivation was the fact that, his child had drawn him with big biceps, as you can see. So I think that's better than any progress picture he could have got. So Marvin, anything to add on here?
Man, I think this is a classic case of like, and again, I'll try and be conscious of time, a classic case of like making a decision based on motivation rather than discipline. And so he's come from this place of, I'm motivated, I'll do all these things based on my motivation. And of course, perfect time, family away, free time, all this type of stuff. Versus now, I'm not motivated because I have all these variables and all these responsibilities and all these things to do. So if you only focus on doing things when you're motivated or when it is easy for you, when the cards are stacked in your favor, then nothing is ever going to be done, because 9 times out of 10, you're going to come across obstacles. 9 times out of 10, your responsibilities will still be there. You're not always going to have free time. You're not always going to be motivated. So I think we can definitely draw some inspiration from this, and that it's all about understanding that discipline comes way before motivation, and that we should be willing to do hard things even when we have hard things going on in our lives.
And especially, I mean, he had a newborn baby a few weeks back, maybe a month or so ago. And again, it's about managing the expectations of this isn't necessarily a time to push too hard, given that, long work hours, lack of sleep, and I think it's really important to have that longer term view. And, as Marvin was talking about earlier, just knowing that we go through these phases within life, and there's times to push, there's time to maintain, there's time to pull back. But ultimately, there has to be some level of consistency leading through, some red thread going through. And last of all, we have triumphs in consistency come when routine breaks. And what I mean by that is it's all well and good being consistent when you are you made me want to stay single.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, for kids, I mean, it sounds like a lot of effort, I must say.
it's
Anyway,
worth it. Yeah,
it's
it's worth
worth
it.
it. So yeah, triumphs and consistency come when routine breaks. So it's easy to be consistent when the cards are in your favor, right? However, when there's travel, when there's maybe a new baby, when there is, a pitch at work and you've got to stay late and the routine changes, this is where we try and retain some level of consistency. We try and build in a little bit more flexibility to match whatever schedule we have. And so I want to introduce Maimuna, and she's back from her trip to Janine. It's too late for you. You've got full-grown kids now. Um, Maimuna, who's just come back from Vietnam, and when she first joined, her top three challenges were consistency, consistency, consistency. She was the person who could never be consistent because she would fall off when things would happen. And so, fast forward 4 months, she's managed an intense work schedule, there's been exams, everything else that life has thrown at her, similar to all of us. And she has been able to be consistent for the first time for this amount of time. And Vietnam happened. Vietnam happened, what was it? Sort of at the end of the month, early this month. And this could have been the thing that derailed her. She was going away with friends who didn't want to work out or who didn't want to do anything. And so, alongside the travel schedule, she managed to plan ahead. She managed to adjust and maintain her program whilst she was away. So, I really want to sort of elaborate here. Like, she knows who she wants to become, right? She wants to become the person who is consistent, who goes to the gym, who does her stuff, and is consistent no matter what life throws at her. And that realization of the mindset needs to shift, I think, has been pivotal to her in that. So I think, Maimuna, do we have you on the call? Yes, we do. Are
Yep, even.
you shy, willing to talk?
Come on, Maimuna.
Finish on the.
Hi.
There we go.
Hi.
She's
Good
here.
evening. Hello, everyone.
Good evening. I
Yeah,
appreciate the time as soon as you're over in Dubai, right? But
it's 9:30.
yes, plenty of time. So yeah, we'll keep it quick. But for you, how does it feel, or what has been the biggest driver to you being consistent since you started this journey?
Yeah, so if you do remember when I did mention earlier, so hi everyone first. I had always struggled in having different coaches and not being very consistent in my work. It's always been a struggle, and I can never keep a consistent or a schedule. But this time with the August, even though I joined in August, it was still a bit of a doubt whether I would remain with the same pace. So let me talk about the journey, which is better. So one of the biggest challenges I had is when you travel with friends or family, it's to be able to be consistent in terms of food. I'm not very good in nutrition, but I am trying to get there. So because I've reached so far, I have reached out to yourself and Marvelyn. I didn't want to go back to square one. I actually wanted um, to keep my weight or my where I have reached. So I had to think about, okay, what I'm going to do is I have to work out wherever I am. And the first thing when I said that to the team when I was traveling, they're like, oh, let's see how well you would do it. And I said, no, so this is a challenge and I am going to challenge you all. I'm going to do it. I did feel sick. I was not keeping well, but still I had to work out in the room. I said, okay, I cannot go to the gym, but at least I'll work out. So I made sure that I do work out even after my breakfast. I'll work out and go out there feeling very proud of myself. And I should say that I feel very much proud that I have done a big change. And I think this hasn't only changed on my holidays workout, but even on my weekends. So every Saturday, I do the morning walk and run. I even go back to my cycling. So definitely my mindset has completely changed. And even if I'm tired, I still would put my strength over there to work out. I would never, it changed my entire life, I should say. There's a big change in my, the way how I am. I sleep early. If I don't sleep early, I feel my entire following day is a messed up from the work, from everything. So I came back, and I sent a message while I'm in the airport to my friends, and I said, listen, we have to work out on a Saturday. I know I just landed on a Friday, but I'm going to work out. And they said, are you sure? I'm like, yes, definitely, I'm sure. We're going to work out, and then we're going to drop out. We're going to have some nice breakfast and discuss on the trip. So I did do that, and it's something which I've never done it in the past, when the time I used to train. So thank you, and to Marvelin. Thanks.
No, I think
And I
it's
think I should
amazing.
still continue.
Yeah, I think you have to
Yeah, thank you.
continue. You found your gym for January as well. So we're going to be progressing you moving from training at home to getting into a gym and continuing that momentum. I would say, how does it feel? Uh, I guess knowing that you performed and you did what you said you were going to do whilst you were on holiday to now coming back. Because I imagine if you came back and you didn't work out, you may have felt like you were at square one. So I'm sure you're feeling proud of yourself. You've kept that momentum up, and it
Mhm.
is just seeing you through to the end of the year now on a high.
Yep. Yes. I actually felt very, um, like I said, it's the first time in the history I actually worked out on my holidays, which I didn't find it's a big deal. Nothing could stop, whether you have to go and enjoy. It's just the change is, and like I said, I use the word I should and I will, and I should not go back to that. Even though I'm a person, I think my scale, it shows it goes one day down, one day up. So that really did not affect me. So I was like, even when I came back, I'm like, oh, it's just 1 kg which I've lost, but it's fine. It's not a big issue. It's not a big deal. So I still would work out. It's fine. It's not the like Mia mentioned, it's not the scale, it's how you feel. And there are days I'm very, very exhausted. I can tell you today when I saw the schedule, I don't have to work out. I'm like, oh wow, today I don't have to work out. So that's great. I have a um 1 day a rest, but again, I do look forward for that next day to work out. So I'm proud. It's not only me. I can see when people who are around me can see that there is a big difference in terms of how uh, the change on me, in my body, in the style which I'm living in at the moment. And I did promise myself now I have to work out on the nutrition part, on the food, because I'm not a very good eater. I can have one meal in a day, but I'm trying to create that consistency. So hopefully with the closing of the 2025, beginning of 2026, I should be having a good meals. So yeah, and I should
Sure.
have a good progress as well, inshallah.
Well, thank you so much,
Thank
Maimuna.
you.
And
Thank
again,
you.
it's all around the kind of the mindset shifts that are happening here. It's not about doing a workout on a holiday. It's about what that shows you want and the purpose you have behind and what you're giving to yourself as well. Because all too often it's very easy just to say, I'll kick it to tomorrow or I'll do it when I get back or whatever it might be. So the fact that you managed to get those, what was it, 3 workouts in 7 days,
Yeah,
as well as like traveling around and flying around and all that kind of stuff, is impressive. And you wanted one last workout before you actually got on the plane. So
yeah.
I think
I think that
full
was
credit
a
to you.
gift I gifted myself.
You gifted yourself. Amazing. I like how you're looking
2025.
at your workouts like that. But thank you, Maimuna. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone, for sharing.